Hey, everybody. My name's Jason. I am 54 years old, and at 52, I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer that had metastasized to my spine, and on this channel, we talk about it. Today, I've got Jeff Noel, who's joining us from a tugboat. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Chief.
I'm so glad to have you on here. We've been talking through the comments on the videos and then through email, and you've shared quite a bit of your story with me. So I'm looking forward to share. I'm glad you're willing to share this with everybody else. I appreciate that.
But yeah, if I can help in any little way, I mean, because I know this is what you're doing, and I really appreciate that. And if we can get a word out to just even a half a dozen or whatever people, whatever, yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Even one person makes a difference. Yep.
Yes.
Welcome to Prostate Cancer, the road to recovery with Jason Stone, a stage 4 fighter. This podcast brings you support and insights from survivors, fighters, and medical experts. Join us for an educational and inspiring journey.
And I've seen in the comments, there's a couple of people that have come in and had said things like, never get your PSA tested. That's kind of that old thinking, right? When did you get diagnosed?
Well, I was doing my PSA probably since mid-50s, but it was always, it was always down there, at below 1, and then maybe it went to 1.2, it just steady came up, but it stayed below 4 until, I'm going to say 64, 65, and it went over 4. Well, that's when my primary care doctor said, okay, we need to take you to a urologist. And I went to a urologist, and he did the DRE, which is no big deal. Said actually it just felt like a normal man's prostate to him. He sent me for an MRI. Great. I went over, did an MRI, painless. Came back, and he said, really, it just looks like a little bit of an enlarged prostate. We don't see any kind of cancer cells. You're good. But he did tell me, he said, come back in 6 months and we'll do another test. Well, I thought, I'm good. So, I didn't go back in 6 months. But I did. I waited about a year, and then I got my PSA, and it was starting to come up a little bit. But I tell you this, the mistake I made, Chief, was I started researching Dr. Google, which can be
Never
good.
do Dr. Google. Never do Dr. Google. Oh, man.
Right. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say never, but in this case, I was trying to think, I just have an enlarged prostate. So I'll tell you the truth, I spent a lot of money on worthless supplements, all these Prostatex and, all these things for getting my prostate slowed down or shrinkage or whatever.
Right.
None of it really worked, And so I blew it off for about another year or so. And then finally it got up to like 5 something. So it was almost at 6. And that's when I went to another urologist in San Antonio. And it was 6 point something at that time. And that would have been in like July of 24. And she was an okay urologist, a little cold, whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, and I say that only because I know in your comments, in your videos, you talked about how your urologist spends time talking with you. Well, she didn't want to give me 5 minutes. It was like, okay, we're going to do the better blood test, which was great. Good. And it came back, because it's a more extensive PSA.
Yeah.
And it came back with markers, as she said, well, I think we need to do biopsy. I said, okay. I wanted to do the perineal, with the MRI, and she would have been okay with that, but the problem was it would have delayed the whole process for maybe 4 or 5 months. And at this time, I'm thinking, well, I want to know. So I went ahead and did the transrectal, which is really no big deal. It wasn't for me. I mean, they knock you out, you just, you're asleep, you wake up, it's,
Oh, I wasn't out. I'm that's awesome that they knocked you out. I was not knocked out.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, they wheeled me in, and a real nice lady there said, okay, count to 10. I think I got to 2, and I was gone, and next thing you know, I'm waking up, and everything was fine.
All right.
I did make a point of cleaning myself very thoroughly. Because that's the problem with the transrectal biopsy is you can get infections from the fetus, the fetus. So anyhow, so then it came back, and then when it came back, my diagnosis came back. Basically, one side of the prostate was benign, good.
Yeah.
The other side, it had 30% was a 3 and a 4. The middle was a 4 and a 3, 30%, and then the bottom half was a 3 and a 3. So one half of the prostate was showing some signs. So okay, we're going to have to do something. And I went to talk to the urologist again, and she was like, well, you got 2 options. Maybe I got more than 2. And I did actually at that time, I asked her to do let me see if I can pronounce this right, a Polaris test. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like a generics test.
Oh, a genetic test.
Genetic test, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I read up about it, and I called the people, and they're like, yeah, we'll help you get that. So I had that performed, and it came back that I was in that middle zone where, I did need to do treatment, but it wasn't pointing to the fact that it was going to metastasize right away or anything. You know what I'm saying? In other words,
so the genetic test looked for markers. Is it going to be an aggressive test? What type of cancer or is it likely to be? And is there any hereditary issues? It looks for all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So okay. So, obviously I do need to do something. Well, like I say, I started researching and I talked with my wife about it, and actually I was going to try to do a focal treatment, and I wanted to do the Tulsa Pro because that one, first of all, there was a doctor right here in San Antonio that was really good at it. As a matter of fact, he's part of a study group, and I contacted his office, and if I would have been a candidate, he would have, because it costs like $20-some thousand out of pocket. Insurance wouldn't cover it, but, hey, it's my life. And,
right.
I mean, I'm like, well, I might go ahead with this. But still with him, if I would have been a candidate, it's a possibility they would have put me in this like random thing where he would, if I got picked to do the Tulsa Pro, I would get it. If not, then I would be kind of obligated to do surgery. So I thought about that, and I went to see this Dr. Kella in San Antonio. He's like one of the top prostate surgeons in the nation, definitely in Texas. He's top 5 in Texas. I mean, this guy's phenomenal. He's done over 3,000 of them.
Oh, wow.
So, and I really liked him. I mean, we had a rapport right off. And I told him, I said, well, Doc, he told me, and they sent me for a CT scan and something else. And what it came back is that my prostate was calcified hard. It had some calcification. And if you look on the Tulsa Pro, that kind of knocks you out of that because, it's an ablating type thing and they couldn't, it wouldn't work.
Okay.
So he said, I'm sorry, but that won't work. I said, okay, Doc. I said, well, I'd still like to, investigate radiation. And he lined me up with a radio-oncologist. No problem. He said, yeah, no problem. So, I mean, he wasn't objecting to it. And so I went to see the radio-oncologist, and I talked to him, very nice fella. But I went home and I thought about it, but when I went home and I called Dr. Keller's office, and before I even told him what my decision was, they said, well, we have you enrolled in a program to where you can get a PSMA scan
for
free.
Good. Oh, that's awesome.
They were trying this new kind of radiation treatment, or, you know what it is. I mean, it's another kind of dye, I guess you'd call it, or whatever.
Right.
So I went and did it, and but by doing that, I felt, and I made the decision I was going to go with the surgery because for me, I felt like surgery was the best option for me because if they didn't get it all, then you do the radiation.
Yep.
I wasn't anything like you, Jason. God bless you. I mean, I know you had a lot tougher decisions, because it had already gotten outside of your prostate. For me, all the indications were that it was inside the prostate, and the PSMA scan came back that no prostate cancer had gotten outside of it. So,
right.
I'm feeling pretty good about it. Well, okay, we're going to do this. Of course, there's the side effects to all of it.
Yep.
And, you do the radiation.
It's about weighing those side effects against each other and deciding which one are you more willing to live with. But I like your idea of doing the surgery first and then leaving radiation as an option later. Because a lot of men, there are some surgeons that will do surgery after radiation, but not many in the country, and they're not often very successful because of the damage that the radiation causes.
Right. And I will make a note that when I talked to the radiocologist about it, I was going to do it. If I did it, I wanted to do the space ore. The space ore, that's, so the rectum didn't get damaged. And then I thought there was another thing where they would, they could even put some like little pellets in there so that when they did the radiologist and when they did the radio, it would hit it directly. But he said they didn't do any of that. They did a scan every day that you went in to make sure you were positioned right. He felt like the space ore, because they're so good at it now, that wasn't really necessary. He said he would do it. But anyway, I'm kind of like, well. And then for me, side effects. I think this is important you guys think about. As I had mentioned to you, I consider myself, I like the idea of being able to maintain some sort of sexual function. And you do the surgery, if the surgeon's good, which I had a good surgeon, and he can do a good nerve sparing, there's a good chance you'll still get some function. When you do the radiation, you may have function for a year or two, but then because of the radiation will actually destroy the nerves, and more than likely after that time, it's gone and there won't be no getting it back. So that was some of my reasoning, to be honest. I thought, well, let's roll the dice here and see. Plus, I felt really comfortable with the surgeon, and I would say anybody that just goes for surgery, research the surgeon, get a good one.
Yeah, don't just take, don't take the first guy that comes up, or, just don't feel like you have to use your urologist just because he's your urologist and also a surgeon, right? Get on the internet and find a good one.
Yeah. And, in my case, we live in Rockport, but we also have a home in San Antonio, and San Antonio's, like the 7th largest city in the country. So there was a lot of good doctors there. But he is one of the best. I'll say one more shout out, Dr. Kella at the urology place. Anyway, so that's what we did. We went with the surgery. Real briefly, if you don't mind, I'll tell you, the surgery went really good. Got out, had no issues. He gave me just some like extra strength Tylenol or something. You have the catheter, but that's no big deal. He came in to visit me. Everything was fine. He said the surgery went well. Now, I did have to stay an extra day, though, because when you do that surgery, you'll get blood in your urine. Usually that will flush out, before the end of the first day. Mine didn't. They had to, what they call irrigate my bladder and to flush the blood out. But it finally did clear up, and I went home, and everything was great. I tell you, I can't complain. I mean, it was just,
couldn't have asked for a better outcome, huh? Other than the fact that you had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you got the catheter, you have to deal with that, which actually you'll learn that sometimes as you get older, too, that catheter is not such a bad thing because, hey, you don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Guys will get this figured out. If they really do go through it, they'll get it figured out.
Yeah, and there, I want to rewind a little bit back to the sexual function part of it. I'm not, of course, able to, and I'm not pursuing trying to, but men that have had radiation, there are some treatments out there. So anybody that's out there that has had radiation, that is struggling with any type of sexual function, look into some things like Trimix. There's some injections that they can do that can make things happen, and then implants. There's implants that help. And,
implants, yeah, that works.
Yeah, so yeah, and you had in one of your emails, I'm curious about a friend you had. You said your friend had prostate cancer, and that kind of hit home with me. Like I had a friend, Greg Brevig, that had passed away from prostate cancer, and I didn't really understand. I didn't really get the message when he had my friend had prostate cancer, of what he was going through, and it sucks that he's gone now. And now I understand. So, what did you learn from your friend?
Well, as I told you in my email, he's a pretty tough guy. He had skin cancer and had taken off. And when he called me and told me, that he was going to have prostate surgery because there's cancer in his prostate, he just said it so nonchalantly. You often hear that, prostate cancer's, not a big deal. It's curable, or you can live with it for a long time. People try to put it off as not such a serious thing. And he just, the way he approached it, I didn't think much about it. But, now I know what he went through. And I feel bad that I wasn't a little more uh, outreaching to him, because he's a really close friend. I mean, we've known each other for over 40 some years, and he's also an offshore boat captain. He's retired. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's the mystique, or whatever you want.
Yeah, there's a thing there that men just generally don't want to dive deep into conversations about things like that.
Right. And and I think that guys really should pay attention to that prostate, because I never thought about it. I mean, to be honest with you, as a young guy growing up, you always think about other parts of your male anatomy that are so important and this and that, but actually that prostate is the one that you really do want to pay attention to.
It really is an amazing little organ with all the stuff that it does and how it functions and where it's at. And it's crazy how much I've learned about it in this situation. And I wish I'd have known more about it before,
Right. And that's why, I think my main push would be not so much prevention, because to me, prevention is a little hard with the prostate. I mean, you can do, not necessarily hard, but if you're young and coming through life, to follow a good diet is, of course, the number one. But that's with the heart, with diabetes and all that.
That's everything.
Yeah, if you follow that, stay away from the good Texas barbecue with all the burnt, crispy stuff on the top, and all this kind of stuff, that part will help protect your prostate. But I think the main thing is the environment. And that's why I was thinking this morning, because a lot of people, I know a lot of men have been diagnosed with prostate cancer that came back from the Vietnam War because of Agent Orange. And it's the same as like with Roundup, or, I'm in this business where the benzene and all the chemicals. And so, these are things that if you're in that kind of environment, you really should pay attention and get preventive, not really the preventive, but the screening.
Yeah. And that screening is just a blood test. And that's what a lot of people misunderstand about. They think it's the DRE, the digital. I keep saying digital.
Digital rectal exam.
And they think that that's the end all be all. And if they feel something, then you're going for surgery. And there's a lot of steps in there. Like when you had talked about your process through this, you said you got an MRI before the biopsy, and that is huge. That's actually a change in the last 5-10 years. They used to just do blind biopsies, and then that sucks because you can do 12 cores, you can do 23 cores and miss it, right? Because it generally happens in one half of the prostate. That's generally the case with most men. And it'll have, they divide it up into sections, and it'll be in one section. Those malignant cells take over and it forms. And the biopsy, they don't know without an MRI going in. But if with an MRI guiding the biopsy, you get a more accurate biopsy. And so that's how they do it now. And then you got the PSMA PET scan. That's fantastic because you got to look for those metastatic sites before you decide on surgery. That PSMA PET scan is what took surgery off the table for me, because I was lining up for surgery. My doctors were like, yeah, you're going to go do surgery. And I was like, okay. And then we did the scan. And if we hadn't done that scan, if my doctor hadn't said, just to be sure, let's do this, I would have done surgery and had those side effects and still had to do all the radiation and have those side effects, and it would have been a mess.
Right. And there are some risks with the surgery that I will say, because, I had my surgery in January of this year, January 9th, and the pathology report came back. I was really fortunate. None of the lymph nodes had, any signs of cancer. Good. The seminal vessels were good, but there was was a little cell activity on the perimeter, I think, on the outside edge of that, where I guess it was just starting to get out. So, with him doing the nerve sparing, and, he was very careful to do what he did. But, still, he even pointed it out. He said that's the only thing that kind of worries him. And the thing that I'm thinking about with surgery or even the biopsies is that anytime you go in there and you puncture that prostate or take it out, you possibly can release those cancer cells into your bloodstream. I mean, they're just super
they're
small.
cells.
yeah. So, that's kind of the one thing, that I can see as kind of a downfall to surgery as maybe opposed to radiation. But I think if you get it in, if you get it early and that's your choice to do surgery, I think it's safe. But there are some other tests also besides. I've been doing a little research on that. There's also a semen, a semen test where they
I haven't heard about this.
Oh yeah. This is just the latest thing. They started in 21, and there's research going on it now that is very promising. And it makes sense to me because you think about it. That's the prostate is producing the fluid for the ejaculate.
Yeah.
So why not? If there's cancer cells around in that prostate, it very well could show in that semen. And there's a lot of, you might look it up, and it's a really promising thing. And you can do that as like an in-home test, send it in. I mean, there's other things we could talk about, but I think that's kind of an interesting thing. And then there's also some probes they can do. It's sort of like an ultrasound probe that they go in, and with the technology they're gaining, they can probe and see where your cancer is. And I like the idea of early detection and early screening for young men. I think they should really think about it strong because of all the focal treatments that are available. I mean, you have HIFU, you have focal laser, phototron. There's just a whole list.
There's so many treatment options, and the sooner you find out, the more treatment options you have available.
Yeah, and a lot of that is non-invasive. They go through your urethra or your rectum or whatever, but I mean, they don't even cut into you. They can do something with that part of the prostate and still have a prostate, and you still have a normal life. I mean, a lot of times they do that for large prostates. So, go in and ablate it and things like this. There's all kinds of things they can do. So, yeah.
And one of the things that people comment on is sometimes you don't have to do anything. Prostate cancer, so all our cells regenerate, right? And different parts of our body, different cells regenerate at different rates, like liver and pancreas cells, they regenerate super fast rates. But the prostate cells actually regenerate at a much slower rate, which is why they say prostate cancer is slow growing. And so there's, when you get that PSA test and it starts rising, or they do the MRI and they say, hey, we think we see something here, oftentimes you're not on an immediate clock. You're not on we have to do something in the next few weeks or few months. But until you get the biopsy, you don't know how aggressive it is. And that's what sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm thinking it with the probe, the ultrasound probe, or doing these other genetic testing taking into consideration your hereditary, try to research your background and see if there is cancer in your family. Some markers that could indicate whether or not you really need to pursue it, more aggressively. But I don't know. I mean, because I thought about that the other day too, Chief. I like
I appreciate the chief. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that too. And you look just like a Navy chief. I see you down there growling at the scene. There you go. Yeah. Okay. But the thing is, because I thought about, there's a lot of people I've read about that were like young and they would have a 3 and a 3 at Gleason 6, and they would still go have surgery. And I'm thinking, was that really? Well, but maybe it isn't such a bad idea.
Really?
If first of all, if you get a good surgeon and he does a good nerve sparing on you, you're not going to necessarily lose that sexual function. Now, there is one thing, and you can edit it out if you want, but, you will not have an ejaculate. And that's kind of a thing. It is. I mean, it's something you will miss. But you still can have, the orgasm. You still have the feeling of satisfaction, you just don't see it.
Just shooting dust.
Right. So, there's considerations there, I guess, if you're young and, you could also save it or whatever, or maybe that's just not important to you. Or you may be at the age where you already have kids, so now instead of doing a, what do you call it, mastectomy, you just go have that prostate ripped out. There you go. No, just kidding. Just kidding. But,
man. Yeah.
But I mean, I can see where, in a way, because the prostate seems to be where a lot of cancer starts, because I also researched, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the prostate organ does kind of act as a immune barrier. In other words, stuff comes into the prostate, and if there's bad stuff, it tries to absorb it or it tries to block it off. I think that's why a lot of people get prostate cancer first. As opposed to even, because I should have lung cancer. All the fiberglass dust that I've done and all this and that.
Man.
Because I helped build several boats and been in the marine industry for over 50 years. So, I've been seeing a lot of that bad stuff.
Yep,
back in the day.
You've had a lot of chemical and material exposure.
Exactly. So, so far all that part's been okay, but the prostate seems to be an organ that, kind of one of the first ones to take the hit. Yeah. So there's a lot of considerations in my mind. I can understand why guys may want to just have that done, and then, maybe they'll be safer.
Huh.
Just a thought. I'm not advocating go out and get your prostate taken out.
Well, so there is a thing. If you do a genetic test, if you see that you're more likely, if you have the genetic markers for it's going to be aggressive when you get prostate cancer. And they say all men, if you live long enough, will get prostate cancer. 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer during their lifetime. And a lot of times it's not what men die from. Right? You don't, so a lot of men get prostate cancer. You die with prostate cancer, but not of prostate cancer.
Right.
And, but if there's genetic markers, if there's indications that, hey, when this happens, it's going to be bad. For example, women with breast cancer, there are women that do the genetic test, they do the mammograms, and once a nodule shows up, there's aggressive treatment they can do. They can do the I forget the term, the mastectomy?
Right, where they remove the breast.
Yeah. And it's like, they're like, I just don't want to be chasing this for a long time.
Right.
And, that's when you have the information that's available to us with all the genetic testing and the special scans that are available. It's awesome that we're in a space where we can make informed decisions.
Right. Well, you think about it, prostate cancer is the #1 killer of cancer in men. It's the second leading cause of death, prostate cancer in men. So it's a very serious thing, and that's exactly what I was thinking about. You'll have women that will go have their breast removed knowing that the possibility of having that cancer, so they eliminate that. And that was my point with the prostate. Yeah. If you're in that situation, don't be so afraid of it, because the urinary thing too. I'm doing pretty good. I had a really good doctor. Like I say, he really knows what he's doing. As a matter of fact, he had a nerve-sparing program that he used while he was doing the surgery.
Wow.
So, yeah. He's good. He's good. And there's another, I don't know if I can pronounce it right, but it's called, let me see, I lost that paper. It begins with an R, Ritzel or something, type of surgery that can be used. And it's a technique on how to go in and do the surgery. I'm not advocating surgery, and I think radiation can be very useful, but, when you think about radiation and the possibility of burning your other cells and other organs and stuff, that's, if you have to do it, yes, but,
And radiation has advanced a lot in the last 5 and 10 years, too. They can get down to within 1 millimeter or less. And so they get that scan, they do the scan, they put you on the table, and as long as you're holding still, or they're scanning you while they're doing it. And so they can make adjustments as needed. They can get really, really accurate with it. I still did the spacer because one of the challenges is colon cancer. You burn the rectum, you have incontinence, and that's something that I experienced is when you have all those sphincter muscles, the sphincter muscle, your rectum, your bladder. And so when you get radiation, you have urgency issues where you got to be real close to a bathroom.
Yeah.
And that can last for over a year. Mine lasted a long time. So.
Yeah. I'm sure you're aware of the Moss report. You know the Moss report, Ralph Moss, the Moss report. He does he's mainly does, the food thing, like
okay.
Moss, Ralph Moss, Dr. Ralph Moss and his sons, they have a podcast, really great podcast. Interesting thing is that he was diagnosed with cancer about 8 years ago, and he's a scientific PhD doctor, and so he's well aware of his body and everything. And he went in and had some sort of focal treatment, which did help him it lasted up to about 8-9 years, and then his PSA started coming back up, and he went and talked to the doctor. Well, he's like 80-some years old, so he decided to go with the radiation. And in his podcast, he explained that he went with the longer-term radiation because, first of all, it's funny because he lives on the East Coast, and because of the traffic and the availability of the one hospital was so much better that he went there. Plus, he felt like the intensity, was a little much with the cyber knife or whatever. So he went with a longer one, but he did say most of it was extremely painless. It's no big deal, except that you have to have your intestines, you have to be pooped out. Yep. You have to have your bladder full. Yep. And he said that was kind of the hardest part of it, was being able to have that section of your body ready for that radiation. So it's not always a piece of cake to do the radiation.
No, it's not. I was doing those self-administered enemas, those little kits you get. I was doing those every day before I'd go. And that gets old after a while. You're doing 23 treatments, 23 doses, and you get tired of having to do the process. And you have to pay attention to your water intake and make sure, okay, I got to drink this much water. I got to drink these 32 ounces a half hour before treatment, because that, it takes 20 minutes for your body to start absorbing it. And so it's going to sit in your bladder, and it'll be right at that window. And then you go in there and you're in a waiting room, and they're just pushing people through, right? They got somebody's in there, somebody's in front of you waiting, and then it's your turn. And if they struggle with the person that's on the table, they're having some issues and it takes 5 minutes longer. And then the person that's in front of you, they're not ready. And they're like, and they're in there and they're like, your bladder's not full enough. And they get him off the table. All of that takes time. And so there was once or twice where I couldn't wait anymore. I had to go so bad. I went to the bathroom and then got a big jug of water and said, hey, take somebody before me. And it's just it's a hassle for sure. But
he said he missed a treatment because of that. I mean, he had to miss one.
Yep.
But to show you, in my mind, too, another illustration of how, you can do, the good diet, you can do everything you can do. And this guy, the Moss Report, if people would go and do his podcast, look, he's an excellent guy. I mean, he does everything that you're talking about. I know you would know everything he's talking about for the health of your body. But yet, here he's lived an extremely healthy life and still had to go back and deal with the prostate.
Yeah, I don't think prostate cancer is something that's preventable. I think it's going to happen. And, we always have malignant cells. Cells go malignant, and our bodies have a natural cleanup system. Well, what happens is sometimes that cleanup system gets overwhelmed, and or you get sometimes it just happens. And there's situations that make it more likely. Your environment is going to put you at risk. The Navy put me at risk. I work at a nuclear power plant. There's minimal risk with that. I get more radiation outside of work than I get, than I get at work from the power plant.
Right. Well, I appreciate your work. That's very, very necessary, and I admire that you're there doing that. That's great. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I think that's a good point. That was my point, is prevention is good. Good dieting and everything is good just for general health. Because that way, too, I will say this. When I went to have my surgery, I went from 3 or something down to 165, 164. Oh, wow. I was walking and losing weight, getting prepared for the surgery, and I felt better. The diet thing and the exercise, I mean, I just feel good. So there's nothing wrong with that. But that's why I think, the early detection, the people being aware of it. And June is Men's Health Month. I didn't realize that. I was hearing it.
I've been seeing that on Instagram. I'm like, I didn't know this was like a Men's General Health Month.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So guys, don't be bashful. I think it kind of bothers me that, because I hear comments just like the DRE and the getting the biopsy through the rectum. And, I tell you what, after all that experience, hey, whatever. I'm not shy anymore. I mean, I'll start walking in the hospital and I'll start dropping my drawers. I mean, I'm ready. Why be shy? I mean, especially in a hospital environment, these people, they've seen, everything.
They've seen everything. Yep. So, they've literally seen everything.
Everything.
Day in, day out. Yep. Yeah, nothing to be shy about.
No.
You get used to leaving your dignity at the door.
Yeah. Well, you did when you joined the Navy.
Yep. Very true.
Yeah. I almost joined the Army. I went down, this was in 73, so you can imagine, that was the height of the Vietnam thing and everything.
Yeah.
And I was going to do it. I stood in line, and everybody drops their drawers, and the doctor comes and checks you and all that, and I'm like, oh. Until I backed out, which, honestly, I wish I'd have went in the Army. Or the Navy. I had 2 brothers in the Navy. So.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Both of them retired from the Navy. They both did their 20 plus, and they didn't retire cheap, though, I'll tell you that.
Were they submariners or target sailors?
I guess you would say target sailors. The Forrestal, my oldest brother was on the Forrestal, which was a fascinating visit I did with him, because, that was the one that had caught on fire, had burned up, and they redid it and everything. That's a pretty famous aircraft carrier.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was cool.
That's pretty awesome. So how often are you getting your PSA checked right now?
Well, I'll do my second 3-month check at the end of June. Coming up, when I get off this time, the 19th, as a matter of fact, I'll do it, and then I'll talk with the doctor. I don't know if I told you, or I can tell you over this podcast, my first PSA after the surgery was a 0.04.
Congrats.
And I was a little upset. I know that's good in a way, but I was hoping for a 000 or,
not possible.
Well, I guess because, there's still some residual or whatever. He said that was okay. What do you think?
Yeah, so the PSMA cells, right, that they're checking for, they are expressed by more than just the prostate. There are other cells in the body that create those. So you could remove the prostate and still have some small amount of PSA. And the amount that you had that's a good amount. That's just right, for not having a prostate. If you're that's fantastic news. That's a good indicator.
Thanks. I'm glad to hear that.
It'll never be 000. And then does he have a threshold? Is there a target for, when it gets above this, we're going to do some radiation, or is that just still on the upcoming conversation?
Still on the upcoming. And,
okay.
I will say this. I will not jump into anything at this point.
Good.
Because, first of all, I wasn't in your situation. Mine was not metastasized outside of the prostate, and that was a good thing. I mean, some people, when you get in your situation, you have no choice. But I think I do have a choice, and plus, I'll be 70 this November. So my idea is I'll watch it. If it doesn't come up real quick, or that I'm not having any other symptoms, I'm going to hold off on really any treatment. But if I do a treatment, it will be the radiation, of course. Yep. And I will try to hold off on that ADT. Now, I've started watching your videos early on, and I
so rough
with you. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I just got 9 hours of sleep, and I can barely keep my eyes open. It's so, you just feel so drained all the time. I feel like a slug.
Yeah. No, and you know, the idea of forgetting things, I'm already getting to that point where, you know, hey, you get Alzheimer's or whatever, old timers, I guess. But, you know, I don't need to, I don't want to add to it. So I will fight off anything I can to avoid, you know, that type of treatment. I guess if it really comes down to life or death, of course I will. But because not everybody does have your reaction. I mean, there are some people that I've read on your podcast, as a matter of fact, that, you know, say, well, we're doing okay, you know, and this and that.
Yeah, and it's the exercise. You know, I'm obese. I'm a big guy, and I've struggled with trying to get my weight down. And if you go into it healthy in a healthy weight, you're able to maintain some level of exercise. You're going to do a lot better with that hormone therapy, with the ADT and the hormone therapy. Right. It is some if you go into it in a bad situation and with bad health like I did, it's going to be a lot tougher on you, which is what I'm experiencing. I'm trying to, you know, even trying to lose weight. Now I'm on a treatment that makes me gain weight. And so I'm fighting not just, you know, food or issues. Now I'm fighting the actual medication tendencies. Right. Just makes it tough.
Can I make another point about the Moss report, Dr. Ralph Moss? The one reason that he kind of is staying away from the chemical treatment, ADT, or, you know, that other stuff, is because he's like a pre-diabetic. His diet keeps him in a safe zone, and his heart is okay because he's very fit, very much on a diet. But the medication can increase your diabetes, and so he's like thinking, you know, I'm not going to, you know, do one thing to hurt the other. And plus, he's 80-some years old, so I guess he figures, you know, he can kind of choose what he wants at that point. But,
it's one of the two of the side effects. One of them is you're more likely to get diabetes. It increases the chances of diabetes. And the other one, what was the other one? I had it in my head. Is heart issues. You mentioned he has a healthy heart. Yeah. The treatment that I'm on actually increases my risk of heart issues. In fact, men on hormone therapy and ADT, the reason when they die, it's often because of heart issues from the treatment. And that's scary. That scares the crap out of me.
Yeah. Well, I can see at your age, you're like 56, right?
54.
54. Yeah. So, I mean, trying to get you up there.
That's all right.
But, you know, I can see where, you know, you have to do this because you need to make sure that you're okay and that, you know, that you keep it under control. And so I understand that. But I think it's something to be looked at by each individual.
Yep. Yeah, and age is a huge part of your treatment decisions, right? You know, what symptoms you're willing to live with when you're 45 or 50 is a lot different than what you're willing to live with when you're 70, 80. So, yeah, everybody picks different treatments for different reasons, and it comes down to what side effects do you want, and your age plays into that.
Yeah. Well, and like in your situation and mine, you know, the technology is coming along so fast. This AI is going to really, you know, blow this up. I mean, in a good way, I hope.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's hope. So, you know, the thing is, keep buying that time because there's going to be something that's going to come up that's going to be able to help that person out, you know, a lot better. So, don't give up.
Yep, for sure. I'm sorry, I'm looking through the notes here. So what other advice or thoughts? You kind of talked about you believe in the early screening. Absolutely. What other advice do you have for men that are, you know, actually, this is a question. Do you talk about it often with does everybody on your crew know?
Oh, yeah, once I got diagnosed, you could kind of tell from this conversation, I'm not
shy about it.
No, and the thing is, and I know there'll be, you know, a lot of very variability of people watching this, but for the guys and their wives and girlfriends, like I'm saying, the sexual part of that is a very important thing to think about. And I think what I'm thinking is, especially with young men, if you tell them, you know, if you don't pay attention to this, it's going to screw up your sex life, they'll pay attention.
Yep.
That's the thing. That's why it should be brought out more. And I don't mind talking about the sexual aspect of it, because I think that will prompt the men to go get checked, to take this more serious. Because it's like you said, there's always this stuff that came. Remember, they even stopped doing PSAs for a while because, well, you know, it's da-da-da, and the government and this and that. Well, and most people will die with prostate cancer in them and all. Well, that's fine. As long as you're monitoring it and you know where you're at. You know, I mean, I will say this. I had a few, and you can edit this out later if you want, but I had a few symptoms that early on that I wasn't really paying close attention to. A couple times I did have a little blood in my urine. But, you know, I blew it off. You know, it was never really anything too bad, and I'm not the kind to get all freaked out about things. I'm like, okay, and it cleared up. Because I also had hemorrhoids, so I get blood in the rectum, too, and I knew what that was. So I'm thinking, I'm just bleeding out everywhere. But, you know, I mean, you know, I'm not the kind to get freaked on a lot of things like that. I just take it in stride. But I did have that, and I did notice that my ejaculate was less. Now, that could have been because of the older age, which that's true. But, you know, and the urine thing, I would wake up at night, you know, a couple times. But that's because on the boat here, we do shifts, or when I was shrimping, you know, you drink a lot of coffee, you're up for, you know, I mean, every 4 or 5 hours, you lay down for 2 hours, and then you get back up. And I mean, so I kind of thought, well, that's not bad. And I never really had a real trouble urinating. But all these were little signs that man should take serious.
And that's what, you know, it's men kind of just, you know, shrug it off and say, I'm fine. And we kind of ignore. But the prostate cancer symptoms are small symptoms. They're things that can be attributed to a long bike ride. They could be attributed to old age. They could be attributed to all kinds of things. And we rationalize it. And it's tough to identify that and say, well, I you know, when's the last time I had my PSA checked? But because that's the thing that you need to be getting along with paying attention to all those small symptoms.
Right. And
where are you at with your PSA?
Yeah, and it's so easy. I mean, it's a blood draw. You know, I would start at 30 years old, as early as 30. And even if you have to pay for it, you can go to Quest or any of these kind of, you know, labs, and they'll have specials, and you can get it for $50. You know, get it, file it, know where you're at, and just keep up with it. You know, I mean, it's really a cheap way of monitoring that part of your health. But yeah, like, you know, example of what happened to you with your back. You know, you were having the backaches, which you just can attribute to the bike ride or just your weight or just working. I mean, I got backaches too. But, you know, so these are all things that could and could not mean it, but important things to watch for your health.
I wish I'd have paid more attention to it and gotten to a doctor way earlier than I did. I think I shared on here. Because I think I shared on here. I was getting married. And the week before I got married, everything down there went dead. So that's when it broke out. It got to the nerves, and it just sucked. The timing of everything just sucked. But oh well. Well,
at least you found out. At least you got treatment, and at least you're being treated, and you're still with us, which is a blessing.
Yeah, and it was having only one metastatic site is, you know, it feels weird to say this, but a huge blessing that, you know, it wasn't, there are so many men out there where it's just riddled through the body, and they're doing well. You know, the treatments are so good right now and so effective that they're able to dial back all those tumors. And I just had the one in my spine, and it was aggressive and it was huge, but we were able to deal with that one thing. And then, there's consequences with everything. Of course, with the treatment on that L1, it embrittled it, and later it crushed, and then I had to have it filled with cement. Well, that's the strain of
our industrialized life and the way we work and the pace that we work at, you know, things like this. I mean, we put our bodies through a lot of stress.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, if you're going to work it hard, take care of it, just like you would, Chief. You know, when you're down there in that engine room, you know, do the valve check, you know, make sure the oil's good and the coolant's good and all that stuff.
Yep. I miss those days. I miss being on a boat. I did.
You were a sub. I was blown away when I found it. You know, when you said you were on a sub corps, and I'm like, oh my God. One of my another dearest friend, who actually gave me my first captain's job on his shrimp boat, but in the Navy, he was in the submarines, and he was he was from San Antonio, and he was actually, what do you call it, the quartermaster.
Okay.
Yeah, he said that was probably the best job on the sub, because you had control of who got what, right?
Yep. I'd say sonar tech is probably up there too. Like if I could do it all over again, I'd be smarter and just be a sonar tech. You know, sit and look at some screens and listen to some headphones, listen to the fish.
Yeah. Yeah, you had one of the tougher jobs. Was that a nuclear sub or a conventional?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I did, is worked in the engine room on the power plant.
Fascinating.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I bet. Bet you got secrets that you can't be talking about on this podcast.
I don't know. I don't know what I can say and can't say. There's not a lot. I mean, the years I was in, there wasn't a whole lot going on. There was, I did get depth charged. I've been somewhere where we did get depth charged. I'm pretty sure that's one I can't talk too much about.
Huh.
Not a lot of people in my, it was on purpose. Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't a drill.
No, it wasn't a drill. Yeah, that's something that people that were in the years that I was in, not a lot of submariners can say that.
Yeah. I could have started World War III. Well, I mean, if it would have done actual, you know, if it would have sank your sub or something, I mean, hey.
Yep. Well, I think I can talk a little bit about that. There was a P3 Orion that had gone down on an island in China. It had hit another airplane and had landed, and they took hostages. How long did that last? That lasted, I think, for 11 days. And so there were a lot of plans in place to try and get those hostages back. I think that's what I can say.
Okay. And just briefly, one more thing on subs. Remember that time when they took some tourists or some news people out, and that commander came up too fast? And hit that boat? Yeah, hit that fishing boat or something. I mean, wow. But were you in the service then? I was. Yep. Wow.
I knew, I didn't know anybody on the boat at that time, but I know, I was good friends with one of the EDMCs, the Master Chiefs, that it went to the boat after that. Because the crew had naturally they had a lot of morale problems. They had a lot of issues, and so a lot of people got fired. Oh yeah, and so yeah, I know one of the guys that went there afterwards to try and help straighten it out. Wow. Yeah, that was a significant time in history. I'll never forget it. Yep. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you coming on the channel and sharing your story. I've enjoyed the emails and the comments, and I trust that this will help people. Somebody somewhere out there, somebody's watching that this helps, and I hope so. I appreciate you being on the show. I mean, don't be shy. You know, just go get yourself checked out. It's okay. You know, it's okay. It's and just there's a blood also, because I was doing some research, there's also, they're coming up with a cancer vaccine, which, you know, could be something in the very near future. There's a lot of people don't believe in vaccines or whatever, you know. Oh, you were going to ask me a question real quick about the financial part. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the like, how has that been affected you? Well, I was very fortunate. I've had insurance through my workplace. Of course, you know, the deductibles and everything, you know, it's pretty high dollar, anything you do. But right before this, I actually went on Medicare, and I
I'm on the Medicare G plan, which
Okay.
I pay a little extra besides the regular Medicare. It's 100 and 200 something a month now, and then I pay another 180 or whatever a month to go on the G plan. But boy, is that a good plan. After you reach your base deductible, everything is paid for. I mean, I haven't gotten a bill for anything. That's actual Medicare, plan. Anybody that's 65 and going on Medicare, the Advantage plans they put out there, yeah, they're okay because you don't pay anything. But if you get in trouble, or if you're going to have surgery, or if you really need something, man, I'll tell you what, that G plan is one of them to look at.
The G plan, huh? Okay. So I'll hold on to that info. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it doesn't cover any dental or eye work. I had to buy my own dental plan, but whatever. But yeah, that was a blessing for me that I'm covered there, and I feel real good about that. But in my opinion, and I know this can get however you want to take it, but I still feel like there should be some basic single payer medical system in this country. And I feel that actually the large corporations and the people, like I'm sitting here with Dow Chemical and all these other, and I mean,
Yep.
Even the food, the mills and all the people that produce our life, these large corporations, that's where they need to get them to be paying into that system so that everybody could have just a base medical, system. Not really.
Yeah.
And then if you want something special, or if you got extra money and you want additional stuff, yeah, you can buy additional things. But everybody, because that way, if you had the base, they could go get these checks. They could keep up with it.
Yeah, and it's the corporations. We're working for corporations that are exposing us to hazardous conditions. So there's some ownership and accountability there.
Yeah, I mean, look at this plastic thing. Just the plastics. I mean, that's getting a lot of people. And I can tell you, I was born in '55, so growing up young, we didn't have plastic water bottles. I mean, there was plastic bottles, but what I'm saying is we didn't have all these, these kind of bottles. We didn't have these, and we didn't use these, and just everything. And I mean, I'm thinking, people say, well, some of this stuff you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Well, that's not true. You're gonna be exposed to all this. So, and it's okay. It's part of life, but they can pay it. That's where they should have went after, to have a corporate tax on all the large corporations to pay that, so that everybody could have a basic medical care.
Yeah.
I don't see why that was so difficult. I really, lobby. We don't want to get into all that, but that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the corporations are in it to make money, and they don't want to be spending money. There's greed runs the country, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, it would be a tax deduction for them if they're paying in on this. That would be so much that would be to their benefit. Plus, if they have a healthier society, they're going to be able to sell more products. And it's greed. I agree with making a little money, but come on now.
Yep.
Help us regular folk out here a little bit.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on the show. This has been a fun conversation. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been looking forward to this for several weeks now. I appreciate it. Any last message? Any last message for anybody out there?
No, just pay attention to your health. Be happy. Try not to get too down about everything in the world, because depression and stress is just as hard on your body as any of it. So just try to take things as they come. It'll be okay, and just be happy. Love the ones you're with. The old song,
I love it.
The one you're with.
Oh, I love
Hey,
it.
them hippie days. Those hippie days were really not so bad. I mean, love, peace. I mean, what happened to all that?
Yep, it's not the world we live in now. Holy smokes! Got Israel and Iran going on, and
not looking good.
No,
but I do appreciate you, Jason. I didn't want to just come on here and just give you, worlds and worlds of praise, because I don't think it's necessary, because everybody that sees your podcast know how good you are. And like I told you in one of my comments, you have a way of just connecting with people. And by the way, your brother, Keith, I love him too. He has a really nice voice. The two of you together, I mean, my goodness, you guys have a career in whatever you want to do.
You know, he's taller than me. He's 6'7".
I know. I saw that and I'm like, wow, those jeans, you got some big folk jeans.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was
Is
talking
anybody
about
smaller in your family?
my grandma on my dad's side was small. She was just a little over 5 foot, but everybody else, like, you know, we're all 6 footers, 6 foot plus.
Wow.
My mom was the shortest. I think she was 5'11" or 6 foot, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And my kids, my son, my youngest kid, when he was 13, he broke 6 foot. So he was 6'1"
Wow.
by the time he turned 14. It was crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Well, keep doing the videos, and I love the videos down at the harbor. Beautiful view, relaxing to see you walking, talking to the ducks and the people, and you know, that's really nice. And yeah, you live in a nice area, so it's fun to see.
Yeah, I'll keep doing them. I'll keep doing the videos. I'll keep doing the walking videos. I'm trying to figure out how to do some biking videos.
Yeah,
I don't know how those are working out.
Looks like you're going 40 mile an hour.
Yeah, I speed up the video. I speed up the video. I don't want people bored just sitting there like, oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, for everybody watching, it's a blood test. Get your PSA checked. It's easy to do. All right. Stay healthy and love you all.